Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only, and it's not intended as financial advice. Going to talk about the BTC, going to talk about the ETH, going to start with some on-chain stuff so we can lose as many people as possible on the retention engagement metric. But I like to look at TA and FA because it tells me that TA matters and FA doesn't. That's the main thing. So the on-chain stats here, this is Bitcoin transaction counts on Coinmetrics. Like, none of this is going to look super turbo bear right now, but if you superimpose price onto this in 2017 versus now, we looked turbo bear in that on-chain transaction stats here were leading price. Certainly they led price before the low in price, right? We're not really seeing that here. It's declining, sure, but it's not telling you like jump ship completely, at least in my opinion. This isn't crazy downturn. Something else to consider here is on-chain stats are heavily influenced by mining. So if there's a rug pull in China mining, for example, which there was, you're going to see that on-chain metrics here. We went from 366,000 to under 200,000 transactions per day on that Chinese mining period, along with just price declining. So for me, it's harder to tell what's leading and lagging if I'm looking at on-chain metrics versus price. That's why TA makes more sense to me than on-chain metrics ever will. But I think it's also just important to look at both and understand what's going on. So yeah, does this look blanketly bullish? No. Does it look crazy bearish? No. I mean, hash rate is completely recovered back to all-time highs. Like China never happened. It's not like the sky is never falling completely. It's not end of the world type stuff. If we look at 2017, 2018, I mean, it's a blip. It's barely registering on what happened. Like, you'd have no idea, right? You'd have no idea price did anything here at any point, right? Like, it doesn't even show up. There's not even a question compared to what mining is today. So it's important to know if we go, like, let's say 2022 is entirely bearish. It's important to know where's the low for the miners collecting ROI. At what price are they underwater? This is going to vary from location to location, from type of electricity to type of electricity, blah, blah, blah. But you can get a rough estimate, right? Is it 13K? Is it 23K? I don't know. It's probably somewhere down there. I'm sure there's going to be people who are working on that furiously, trying to figure that out. And you can sort of get a rough fudge estimate. So we'll know that number sooner rather than later. But the point is that value also has a significant impact on bottom of bear markets. If we look at the how rich are the miners getting metric or Puel multiple on looking to Bitcoin, this doesn't look terribly bad. This doesn't look bearish, certainly. It doesn't look overbought, doesn't look oversold, it's just sort of in the middle. A lot of these metrics are just going to be in the middle. You'd have no idea that inflation rate's been 2% since, over a year now. Some would argue we've seen the move off of this recent halving already, and that to expect more may be a bit much. You'd have no idea that 90% of the Bitcoins ever in existence have been mined. With only 10% left to go. Historically, I think the supply-demand stuff takes time to kick in. Certainly, we saw that with ETH. We're seeing that with ETH. It's funny, people talk about Saylor in the past 500 days buying X amount of ETH versus EIP 159 burning X amount of ETH in 100 days. And you can't see that on the chart. You'd have no idea that in the past 100 days, ETH has burned billions in ETH, right? You'd have no idea. Here's active addresses for BTC. Not blankly bearish. Declining? Sure, right? Here was 2017. This was bearish, right? We saw euphoria and then everybody left. We saw everybody wanting to come to the party and then everybody looking for their jacket, realizing they don't need their jacket. I'm just going to leave. And that's how it went, right? We're not really seeing that here. Now, we saw that in mining exodus of China because, again, mining is going to affect on-chain stats heavily. We also saw declines in price at that time. So those go hand in hand. But it's not like there's some leading bearish metric here. Is it at a multi-week low? Yeah. But is that enough to say like enough for price? I don't really think so. Here's the 2-year multiplier on the more TA side of things, but bottom here is at 28, tops at 141. We're in the middle of the range. Again, there's nothing here that's screaming this has to go down or this has to go up. Does it look more bearish than bullish? Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. But anything below 28 should be a buy. Anything above 141 is a sell. The directionality here is certainly more up in the air than it was 2-3 weeks ago. 2-3 weeks ago, everything looked great. We just needed some volume to come in to push us beyond those highs, especially on ETH. Didn't happen. We saw no volume. Here's the 200-week moving average heat map. Again, this isn't really going to help you right now because it's not telling you we're overbought, right? It's not telling you that the moving average is moving up super quick. It's telling you we're cooling off a little bit, and the support here is at 18. So bottom should be around 18 because historically it really has never breached that level for a significant period of time at the 200-week moving average. This is just an MA down here. 18 and 28, that's the range, right? If we're bearish throughout 2022, if we're bearish even throughout Q1 2022, those are the levels I'd be watching extremely closely. Here's MVRV, another metric looking at on-chain activity versus market cap. Nowhere is this telling you that we're bearish, right? You could say, oh, we're declining, but to me, that's more bullish than bearish. I don't know. This doesn't help you at all, you know. Here's the hodl waves, which don't tell you we've topped. How this works is we can look at how any coin has moved at any period of time, how long it's been since it's moved, rather. For most of these all-time highs, we've seen at least a 50% move in, or at least 50% of the coins that moved in the past 6 months at an all-time high. We'll say it like that. Currently, we're around 30%. And, you know, this isn't screaming like sell here, this is overbought, this looks terrible. It's just screaming weakness, lack of anything, really. You'd have no idea that exchange reserves are at multi-month lows. You can pull this up on Glassnodes, you can pull it up on CryptoQuant. Assuming the data is correct on either of these, you'd have no idea, right? This looks incredibly bullish to me, but price-wise, it hasn't kicked in. It just hasn't kicked in. Minor outflows, which keep me up at night a little bit here, have not increased. If anything, miners are hoarding coins, which to me is terrifying because if we start breaking lows and all of a sudden some miner decides, all right, enough's enough, right? I'm selling here. I can't hodl any longer. That's going to push price lower. And then you're going to get more miners saying, oh yeah, all right, probably the top. Miners historically are terrible traders. Okay. So miners create great opportunities because they hoard all these coins, end up creating a bottom by selling a bunch of coins all at once if they're not hedging or doing whatever else they do. But what you don't want to see is what we saw in 2018 where we're at some critical level, no volatility, and then all of a sudden the miners start piling and just selling. That's what you don't want to see. You don't want to see any of these Bitcoin treasuries start reporting outflows because this collectively is a ton of BTC. This is 1.5 million BTC. Let's say some of these start to question their investment, you know, during a bear market. We'll see how strong these hands are. Paper hands or diamond hands, I don't know. And, you know, ultimately this is also terrifying. Now this is the Mt. Gox wallet. And you could say, oh, it's not a lot of BTC. It's mostly bought up by hedge funds, the claims at this point. All true, but again, this isn't a bullish event for price. It just isn't. Supply unlocks aren't bullish. So when this eventually gets released, which hopefully is in just the depths of the bear market, when you get bad news and it's already bearish, the trend is already bearish, just pile it on at that point, right? Just, yeah, release the Mt. Gox wallets, have the treasuries unlock their BTC. We'll have Square saying they hate BTC or something, right? Have all the miners decide they don't want to be Bitcoin miners anymore. You know, just let it all happen at once. Let us just get crushed so that we can recover from there. The worst thing you want to see is in a bull market, like let's say Q2 is bullish. I don't want to see all these outflows get reported. I don't want to see Mt. Gox suddenly decide, yeah, now's a good time to release these claims. That's what you don't want to see. That's what I don't want to see. Certainly don't want to see it in Q4 2022, Q2 2022 either. That's really when crypto does best. All right, finally moving on to technicals. Doesn't look good, folks. Just doesn't look good. You know, we can make all the comparisons we want to make to all sorts of markets, but ultimately, if we're not bullish on the 1050 EMA, pick anything you want, but if you're not bullish on some bullish trend metric, and you're not bullish on any of the trend metrics you can figure out that makes sense, you know, it doesn't make sense to be bullish. So when someone says they're not bullish, that means they don't expect price to increase. They don't expect higher highs. So do I expect this to go to zero tomorrow? No. Do I expect this to make higher highs tomorrow either? No. Lower lows are certainly the expectation based on where we sit. This was 2017. Just for people who like backtesting, this is the 1050 again. I took off price just to show you that, yeah, this can crisscross several times. And when it does, you can get bullish again. I'll get bullish again, right? Crisscrossed here recently. crisscrossed here. Told you plenty of times here, down here. When to get bullish, when to get bearish, when to put on the gas, when to put on the brakes, red light, green light, whatever you want, analogy you want to think of. We're not in a green light. We're in a parking lot, right? This is not a bullish situation. And then if we look at the weekly on this mess of a chart, this is a Bollinger Bands plus the cloud on the weekly. Here's 2017. Again, we were above the cloud the whole time. We were above the 20 SMA the whole time, that green line, above the key dream the whole time, that red line. So this is what actual bullishness looks like. You can see when we're not bullish, 2019 to 2020, just ranging in the cloud, in and out of that 20 SMA. We were certainly very bullish into 2021. And since kind of February, March, we've been less bullish. We had a chance. We had a really great chance at making something happen into Q4. But again, the volume just wasn't there. Nobody wanted to buy at the highs. So as we sit right now, your support's right here at the cloud. It's the cloud, it's the key gene, it's the bottom of the V bands. We've already lost the 20 SMA, right? The expectation for continuation is not there. It's gone currently. We go from bullish neutral to neutral bearish once we start breaking B bands cloud on the weekly. That's just the weekly. I mean, the daily, we've already lost anything that I can think of that would be bullish. We've lost the 200 EMA. We've lost the cloud. It's funny, I saw this article in Bloomberg as I'm recording this about Bitcoin losing the 200-day MA, depending on what MA you want to pay attention to, whatever. The point is, this is not bullish. This does not look good. You can see when we're bullish. It's right here. You want back testing? Here you go. When it's above the 200, above the cloud, it's go time. Above the 200, above the cloud, go time. You can look at this anytime, anywhere you want, any time frame. Not bullish. So until we're back above 53, then we're good to go. I said in some video, I can't remember which one or 2 weeks ago, what you don't want is a repeat of this fake out into the cloud and then this edge to edge move into the cloud. And that's exactly what we got. We got that to the T. So even if this is the low for the cycle, there's no reason to be bullish here. Just none. I don't see anything. Here's the 4 hour. I was pretty optimistic leading up to this because we had a bull div, we had potentially inverted head and shoulders and or falling broadening wedge, descending broadening wedge technically, which looked decently okay at the time, and then nope, lost it all. And even here, this does not look bullish to me. You could say, how can you tell there's a difference of anything here? Just the price action looks not triple bottomy like it did here. If we can pull up back to 52, then we can start talking bullishness again, and then we can say, oh, it looks like this, or oh, it's an inverted head and shoulders. But as we sit here in the moment, certainly don't feel super confident about BTC. Losing the 200 and losing the cloud is just super disappointing, honestly, for the cycle, because Q4 should be bullish, and it wasn't. Q4 was not bullish. This is the 5th worst quarter on record, I think, and the worst positive quarter on record, certainly. Look at the averages, look at seasonality. Again, I don't care if you think it matters or not. It's just math, okay? It is what it is. All right, let's talk about ETH. Here's the ETH reserves, right? And you could say, oh, this is all going to DeFi and DEXs and whatever. It's funny, here's a head and shoulders at the bottom of a downtrend on ETH reserves, which led to continuation. But this should be incredibly bullish. If we look at the ETH 2.0 stuff, it should be incredibly bullish. You'd have no idea. If you were some random person looking at these metrics, you'd say, wow, this is amazing. Look at all this ETH that's being locked up. There's so much ETH not being released. It's deflationary, yet you'd have no idea. You'd have no idea. You just wouldn't, because price didn't go anywhere. Here's on-chain metrics real quick. Transaction counts, flat. Not super bearish by any means. Not telling you to jump out of anything. Looks okay, looks fine. Active addresses, sure, they're down, but they're not like plummeting. Everything looks fine here. Nothing is going to tell you that this looks awful. Unless you're looking at price, which to me is what matters most for most people in the near term. We'll say in the next, if you're on like a monthly time horizon or a weekly time horizon, daily, then yeah, you want to look at TA. Now, if you're on a 5-year timeline, sure, maybe fundamentals make more sense. But for me, and then now I'm looking at TA. So for ETH, it was setting up for this high. Last video, I said ETH is primed, right? That was the title. I got excited. I was super bullish. People who love to counter trade me were like, you're wrong. You're always wrong. That's fine. But ultimately, we just didn't get the volume. we made an all-time high. It was just pathetic, but we made an all-time high. And this should have played out as a cup and handle or some sort of continuation pattern. And 6 to 7K was the level. As it sits here now, this is extremely unlikely to hit that by the end of the year. Beyond Q4, I don't expect ETH to be bullish. Don't expect anything to be bullish, but I'm happy to be wrong. Ultimately, we need buying volume, right? There just wasn't any. There was none at those highs, none at all-time highs. So is this pattern still on the table? Yeah. The bias is not there though, right? We're not sitting at highs saying, yeah, ETH is primed. We're sitting at lows thinking, okay, maybe this is fine, but this, I wouldn't long that myself. Here's the cloud. We got a TK bear cross over the past couple days, pricing in the cloud. So again, expectations here are not higher highs. That just isn't how this works on trend metrics. Backtest this all you want. Use any cloud settings you want. Not bullish. Just is not bullish. Here's a 1050 crossing bearish for the past couple days. Look at everything since 2020, how this has looked on the 1050. At a bare minimum, you need a bullish 1050 cross. This thing isn't going to magically go to 7K without a 1050 cross. Doesn't happen. And ultimately, this is what I've been looking at over the past couple days is this multi-shouldered head and shoulder potential. That is the thing. You can look that up. Now, this is either a multi-shouldered head and shoulder or a diamond top or a broadening wedge, whatever you want to think of this as. I don't consider it bullish. And the target here is 3 to 3.5. So we've gone from a target of 6 to 7 to a target of 3 to 3.5. Kind of is what it is. But I don't pop this chart up and think, yes, this is the one. This is going to get us there. This doesn't give me bullish vibes. It looks just like Link BTC, which continues to look worse and worse and worse. The only reason I bring this up is because it fits the same pattern. You can have multiple lower lows, but ultimately, until we break a shoulder here, as you're making lower highs, then the pattern stands, the target stands, the bias is still there. Here's BTC. Again, much like ETH, just kind of sad. And had a breakout, 0.1 to 0.11, certainly the expectation based on that chart pattern. And on the weekly, potentially 0.15. Maybe we get there on the way down, right? Maybe ETH goes down less than BTC on the way down. And then that's how we get 0.15. Certainly be a crummy way to do that. But hey, it's a possibility the way this is going. So yeah, things have really changed over the past couple of weeks. Lost the trend metrics we needed to hold. Below 4K on ETH now, below 50K on BTC. End of the year, everyone with money, with capital, has probably gone on vacation or looking to go on vacation. Just sell it all, come back in January. That's a very likely scenario for a lot of hedge funds or whoever else. At this point in time, I'm not even going to comment on legacy because that's a whole nother ball of wax. That's all I have for this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I too bearish? Are you happy that I'm bearish because you're counter trading me? Just let me know. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Happy trading.